tradwives, fitfluencers. We'll dive into these two trends, starting with a tradwife. Did that say you were putting on makeup for an hour and a half to not go anywhere?
We gotta go to the grocery store.
Another trend has young men following fitfluencers down a dangerous path towards performance-enhancing drugs like steroids. How easy was it for you to get a hold of these SARMs?
I just had to click on a link that added them to my cart, check them out.
What a difference a year makes, particularly when you're talking about social media trends. This time last year, you probably hadn't heard of tradwife, a woman who chooses to leave the workforce behind to be a full-time homemaker. But tonight, tradwife content creators are boasting millions of followers and nearly 100 million views. Of course, not everyone likes this trend, and some are quite outspoken, saying the tradwife movement is turning women into second-class citizens. Another trend has young men across the country following fitfluencers down a dangerous path towards performance-enhancing drugs like steroids. Now, how prevalent is it? According to a recent study from the Center for Countering Digital Hate, in the past 3 years, they found 420 million views of videos pushing steroids to teens and young men. So tonight, we'll dive into these two trends, starting with a tradwife.
A couple years ago, I was in college pursuing meteorology. That was considered great. A couple years ago, I was into the bodybuilding industry and I was into fitness modeling. That was awesome. However, when I decide I want to drop out of college and become a traditional wife, and my only goal in life is to be an amazing wife and mother, that's when eyebrows seem to raise. Being a traditional wife is so much more than just cooking and cleaning and wearing house dresses. We wives budget down hard. There is times where you don't get what you want, and that's okay. So instead of always spending all this crazy money at a coffee shop, we make our coffee at home for the most part. That doesn't mean we don't go out to a coffee shop like ever. My husband took me out for my birthday, and you know what? I did get a coffee, and it was expensive because it was my birthday, and that is okay. Another thing traditional wives love is aprons, because these aprons are like our house uniforms. We know when we put those aprons on, we mean business. If you are a career woman, you are sacrificing time at home for your career, and same with traditional wives, we are sacrificing a career for more time at home. Women should have the choice to be homemakers or not without being judged. And women should also be able to use the term tradwife, which means traditional wife, and not be shunned for wanting to be more traditional.
Well, Esty, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, so tell me, you think the tradwife movement, and tradwife is like a hashtag, it's on TikTok, it's on Instagram, right?
Yes.
So this is a big deal on social media. Why do you think it's controversial?
I think that it comes from both a positive side and a negative side. I think that it is gaining a lot of attention because a lot of women are realizing that being a wife and a mother is enough, and you don't have to have a career as a woman to feel fulfilled. But I believe it's also getting controversy because a lot of people are thinking that it's bringing women back in time to second-class citizens, and that's simply not true.
Well, so what are they getting wrong? What are they missing that makes this a good thing?
Well, you are not a second-class citizen being a traditional wife. You are embracing a role at home, and you are a wife, and you're a mother, and you're taking care of your home. So it's a very valid and fulfilled role.
You actually go on social media and promote this, right?
Yes, I do.
And that's kind of a job.
It's more of a hobby.
But you have 100,000 followers or more, right?
Yes.
On different platforms.
Yes.
And do you monetize that?
I do. TikTok pays me anywhere from $50 to $180 a month, and then YouTube pays me $300 a month.
So you put out quite a few videos, and a lot of people look at them.
Yes.
What do they say?
A lot of women support this. A lot of women want this, and they are so happy that there's a woman out there online. And there's plenty of women doing this, but they're really happy to find other women online who are promoting this and saying that this is a great thing to do, and they're happy, and this is enough. On the negative side, you have a lot of people thinking that this is a white supremacy movement, and it's linked to white supremacy. That this is dangerous for women to be financially dependent on their husband.
Yeah. Esty says a day in the life of a trad wife is really very busy. You are busy. Did that say you were putting on makeup for an hour and a half?
Yes. Makeup and hair, yeah.
To not go anywhere?
Well, you gotta go to the grocery store.
And you said you don't ever wear sweatpants?
I have one pair, and I don't wear it often, no.
Why are you hiding your face?
Why are you looking at me?
I'm just curious. Okay, you said you submit to your husband.
Yes.
Yeah. I have a tick. It's not. I'm not trying to start trouble. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think the term submit has gotten such a bad rep, and it's gotten completely twisted in the media. I actually blame the twisting of this word from the porn industry. And it has this weird BDSM connection, and a lot of people think it's degrading and that the woman is less than a man, but biblical submission is what traditional wives talk about, and that means that the husband has the ultimate authority in the home, and this is from the Bible, and there's a lot of different opinions about that, but in my marriage, we follow that.
Yeah, well, the Bible says women submit to your husband, but then it says husbands love your wives as you love the church.
Absolutely.
So there's a duty on both. When we come back, Esty's husband says he's the envy of all his friends. We'll find out why, like we don't know, when we meet him next.
You can have a wife who stays home, adheres to traditional gender roles, but she might not believe in submitting to her husband. One of the differences with traditional wives is our priorities and our values. Christian traditional wives believe in biblical submission, and this does not mean the wife is of less value than the husband, but our husbands do have the most authority in our marriages.
Did you know that high blood pressure is the #1 risk factor for mortality? 1 in 2 adults has it. That's a 50-50 chance you are a walking time bomb. But here's the good news. You can take control of your blood pressure naturally without relying on Big Pharma. 120 Life combines delicious super fruit juices proven to help lower blood pressure. Backed by hundreds of doctors and trusted by thousands with real results, it's a solution you can rely on. The best part? It's risk-free. Try it for 2 weeks. If your numbers don't improve, you get your money back. Lower blood pressure or your money back. Nothing to lose, everything to gain. Go to 120life.com. That's 120life.com and use code PHIL, P-H-I-L, to save 15% and get free shipping. This is serious. This is your life we're talking about. 120 Life can help. $36 trillion. That is the U.S. debt, and it gets deeper and deeper by the day. Our debt has never been higher, nor have the stakes. The government is looking to slash the federal budget by $2 trillion, and no one knows what that will mean for your job, savings, and future. I've seen a lot in my time, and there's one thing I know for sure. You need to prepare before it's too late. I trust Preserve Gold to help protect my wealth, and I strongly urge you to do the same. They are the only precious metals firm I trust and recommend to my family, friends, and audience, and they have a special offer just for you. Text Dr. Phil to 50505 to get your free precious metals guide from Preserve Gold. With gold prices recently breaking records and analysts predicting this trend to continue throughout 2025, you cannot afford to wait. As a bonus, you can get up to $15,000 with a qualified purchase from Preserve Gold. So don't wait. Text Dr. Phil to 50505 today. Esty is what is called a tradwife. Now that's short for traditional wife. She's been married to Connor for a year, and he says this lifestyle is exactly what he wants.
My life as a traditional husband is great. I have a clean home to come home to, and I also have food on the table.
We're making some pasta from scratch.
It puts a smile on my face when I get home that my wife is prettied up for me. She's done her makeup and has a pretty apron on.
Why wouldn't we dress up to see the most important person of our life, which is our husband?
I think most men would like to have a traditional wife. My coworkers that have actually said, like, man, you're super lucky. I want a lifestyle like you.
My husband does not have to lift a finger when he is at home.
When I met Esty, I was 20 years old and Esty was 22.
I was going to college to please my parents, but I secretly wanted to be a traditional wife.
Before I met Esty, I never really dated, not even casually dated, but when I met Esty, I knew that she was the one and that we were a match made in heaven.
We don't do opposite sex friendships. I don't think a woman needs to have a male best friend.
A modern man would feel much more insecure than I do as a traditional husband.
I don't mind at all when I have to call you and check in and make sure you're okay with me going somewhere.
In our marriage, we don't have arguments. I'm the leader of the marriage. I'm the one that's responsible for coming up with a solution. And Esty does not ever talk back to me.
I submit and I serve my husband.
I'm sorry. So why was a tradwife important to you?
When you raise a family, her taking care of the children, staying home with the children, coming home to a well-cooked meal, clean house, and just having a wonderful life and living life and loving your family and your wife.
And how did you bring this up?
I brought it up on our first date, actually. Yeah, surprisingly, yeah, I did.
Really?
Yes, I did, yep. And we talked about it for like 2 hours on our first date, and we both loved the idea of it, and that was a goal that we wanted to work towards.
And you say you don't have any arguments.
I wouldn't say that we don't have any arguments.
Well, you did say we don't have any arguments.
Or disagreements, but I come up with the solution to solve that, disagreement, or when we have a disagreement on something, I'm going to be the person to come up with a solution so it doesn't lead into an argument.
And that's because you're the repository of all knowledge, or what? How does that work?
You just, you just think that you love each other, and you need to figure out a way to put whatever you guys are disagreeing about behind you, and
do what you want.
Do what I want.
Well, that's what you said. You come up with the solution.
We come up with a solution, but it's not always what I want. I want to make my wife happy. That's my job as a husband, to make my wife happy and love my wife more than anybody or anything.
Yeah. Well, we had that kind of agreement. We decided I would make all the important decisions and she would make all the rest. We just haven't come up to any important decisions. And that's worked out really great.
It's a very balanced life. I think people think it's extreme to have one person at the head of the household, but it's very natural and it's been done for a very long time.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about modern feminism?
I think it hurts a lot of things. I think it hurts masculinity in general. I think it hurts the traditional roles that we live. I think that, and I think it hurts masculinity because the woman is more the leader than the man. men are born to be leaders. A masculine man needs to be a leader, and he needs to walk with God. And he needs to be able to protect his wife at all costs. And that's what my take is on it.
Do you think you would ever support her having a career outside the home?
I would support my wife in whatever I need to support my wife in. But, that's why I married the woman I married, because we chose this lifestyle and this is what we love.
Do y'all plan to have a family?
Yeah.
We do.
How many children?
I would say around 3 children. That's the ideal, but if it's more, then it's more, and we'll love it.
Yeah. We're going to hear from some other women that have different viewpoints when we come back. Neha says that she doesn't like this new trend. She says tradwives are looking back to the 1950s with rose-colored glasses and romanticizing a time that really wasn't so great for women.
Tradwives on social media are selling a huge lie. Tradwives say that the woman's place is in the home as a homemaker, but what tradwives are actually doing by producing all of this high-quality social media content is working, is generating income, and that's disingenuous to their followers. The tradwife movement is essentially prescribing that men should be the dominant force in the home and that women are to be homemakers and subservient to them in almost every matter. I don't think that there is any beauty in second-class citizenship. Tradwives are absolutely looking back to the 1950s with rose-colored glasses. Women in the 1950s were being so oppressed by both society, their husbands, themselves, and that's the reason so many women were miserable and self-medicating. So it's calling back to a time where someone like me would have a hard time existing in society. In many other cultures, traditional gender roles are very present, but what goes along with that are high rates of domestic violence, financial control, and the inability for the woman to really be able to live her truth.
If he says no and puts his foot down, then the answer is no.
The tradwife movement is a huge affront to all of the hard work that women and even lots of men have been doing for decades in order to get women equal rights.
Well, thanks for being here. Not a big fan of tradwives.
Not the biggest fan of tradwives, no.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to be a wife and a mother and stay at home and even embracing traditional gender roles. But there is something very dangerous in women being beholden to those gender roles, because across different cultures where there is more adherence to traditional gender roles, there are higher rates of sexual abuse, sexual violence, domestic violence, and financial abuse. And I think tradwife culture is kind of an affront to all of the really hard work that advocates and activists have been doing for the last 50, 60, 70 years.
We talked about that a little bit, and I actually made a list of some of those things because some of this has happened so much more recently than people realize. It was 1839, they could have marital assets. 1916, women elected to Congress for the first time. 1920, 19th Amendment to ratify the vote started. In 1948, enlisted in the Air Force. It wasn't until 1963 that the Equal Pay Act, in theory, abolished disparity in wages, in theory. It was 1974 before a woman could have a credit card in her own name. Then Supreme Court Justice in 81, 83, American woman was in space. 97, woman Secretary of State. So these things have just been coming on just within this generation. So some of this stuff is hard fought and recently won.
That's right, yeah. The thing that jumps out to me as being the most problematic is that, to have a platform and monetize such a big platform and be spreading a message that women should be second-class citizens in their own homes and be submissive and subservient, and then that is sort of the natural social and biological order. I think that's extremely harmful, and it's also just not true.
And you say that's not how people should look at that. That it's not a second-class citizen.
Correct. I disagree, because the idea that, separate but equal, the last time we heard the argument of separate but equal as a social framework was during Jim Crow. So there is no space in a contemporary and modern society for separate but equal. That's just my opinion.
Pew Research did a study recently that asked people what they value in the different sexes. And it was an anonymous survey so people could actually be honest about this. And I was really surprised at what they saw. They said, what traits or characteristics do you think people in our society value most? And in men, number one was honesty and morality, 33%. And then 23% was second, professional and financial success, ambition, leadership, strength, toughness, hard work, and good. With women, number one was physical attractiveness. And at the top over here was honest and morality. Over here, it was all the way down to number 4 at 14%. So this battle's still going on, right?
The battle's still going on, and what I think is interesting is that instead of relying on an adherence to what this data is showing, my point is that, we should be challenging the social conditions that allow for this data to be the way it is in the first place.
Yeah, and you think tradwife just plays into this?
I think it reinforces it, absolutely.
Yeah. So what did you think? Did you like that trend? The next trend we're diving into can get dark and dangerous in a hurry. And this one is aimed at teen boys and young men. A look at bro science and bigorexia is coming up next. Life is full of surprises, and emergencies often strike when we least expect them. But preparation is key, and that's where Jace Case comes in. With Jace Case, you'll have essential emergency prescription medications right at your fingertips, ready when you need them most. Whether it's an unexpected illness or a travel mishap, having the right meds on hand can turn a potential crisis into just a minor inconvenience. Don't let the unexpected catch you off guard. Jace Case gives you peace of mind so you can tackle life surprises with confidence. Be ready. Take charge today. Head over to jace.com, that's JASE.com, and when you check out, use the code PHIL, spelled PHIL, to get a discount on your order and to have the right meds on hand the moment you need them. Men are likely to build their bodies to draw the attention of women. This is what I call the peacock syndrome. Just watch bodybuilders strut their stuff on social media. And teenage boys throughout the country are fueling this trend by lapping up videos from fitfluencers who are pushing unregulated performance-enhancing drugs like steroids. Now, Chris Gutierrez, our senior news anchor on News on Merritt Street, did some investigating for us to see just how easy it would be for a teenage boy to get their young hands on these dangerous drugs.
We found a disturbing black market of steroids sold as supplements all over the internet. Even though these drugs are illegal, here's how they do it. Many of these supplements are sold as research chemicals, which means they're not meant for human use. But they're still finding their way into gyms across the country. Just take SARMs, for example, which stands for Selective Androgen Receptor Modulators. SARMs have never been legal. They've never been prescribed by doctors. In fact, they were studied in the 90s for muscle loss after cancer treatment. Another popular body-enhancing drug is Trenbolone, or Tren for short. These supplements are banned in competitive sports, and they're on the World Anti-Doping Agency's prohibited list. But when we searched online, they're everywhere. We could have paid roughly $200 for a bottle of SARMs and a small vial of Tren. They even promote free shipping. It's that easy. But what's in these pills? One study tested dozens of SARM supplements and found a laundry list of dangerous ingredients, including unapproved hormones and steroids. But because they're sold as supplements, there's no oversight by the Food and Drug Administration, which means people have no idea what they're putting in their bodies.
Chris, thank you for being here.
Of course, thank you for having me.
So that was a disturbing piece that you just put together. Were you surprised how easy it is for these young men to get their hands on these really dangerous substances?
I was. In fact, when I first spoke to your producer about it, I was blinded to what was going on, to be honest with you. And then I did a deep dive, my producer and I was shocked and disturbed by what we found and how easy it was for me to potentially buy those things.
Yeah. So what do you think's the driving force behind these young boys doing this?
You started this show by telling us how prevalent it is on social media, right? More than 400 million views. The problem is our kids get addicted to those things and they can't stop scrolling through those things, right? And so if so-and-so's doing it or if so-and-so's doing it, then I want to try it too. And I've got a 13-year-old son at home, right? He has friends who he looks up to at school and they play football and he wants to be big and do these things. And so we have real conversations at our house because if I'm not talking to him, people on social media will be.
Chris, wait till you hear about 23-year-old bodybuilder Colton. Now, he says he's using steroids now and looking to launch himself to internet stardom at whatever the cost.
I have an addiction and obsession with lifting. I can never be big enough. I started because I was getting bullied a lot in school. I was 5 foot tall and around like 100 pounds, and everyone made fun of me. And I actually left school early just because of all the bullying. So I decided to go to the gym. On Instagram, you see a lot of fitness influencers and models, and everyone wants to look like that. A lot of the influencers that I follow, they do take steroids, and so that's another reason why, like, at my age, I hop on gear and take it. I mean, you can get steroids for cheaper than protein powder. I was roughly around 20, 21 years old when I first started steroids. Within like the first 2 weeks, I got all the way up to 170, 175. And then like about a month and a half in, 2 months in, I was at 180, 185. And that was like getting pure muscle. And that's when people started noticing. It felt really good. People call it like a God complex because it literally gives you this placebo effect of feeling like a God, like you can't die. But then the downfall was all the roid rage. Like I would just get mad out of nowhere. I'd just blow up on people and almost lose relationships and friendships from it. My goal is to be Mr. Olympia one day. So I'm not really worried about my mental or physical health at the moment, just because I have my eyes on the prize right now.
You started steroids at what age?
20, 21, around there.
Yeah.
In the very beginning, I was kind of like hesitant about everything. And then once I got on it, and I started seeing more results, I wasn't really as worried, and I was feeling okay and everything mentally, physically.
You have concerns about this?
Yes. There's a lot of roid rage, and I have to deal with that. And especially just having kids is one of my bigger concerns.
So you don't value all the muscled up?
No, not at all.
Sort of
I'm
thing.
with him for who he is, not for what he looks like. I didn't support him at all when he first took it, and I still don't.
Yeah. So who are you doing this for?
Myself.
And what's the payoff?
Just knowing that I made it to the Olympia or just got my pro card and was able to step on stage, because that's just been a dream of mine for the last couple of years.
But at what cost, right?
Yeah, that's your concern, right?
At what cost?
Yes, it is, because I want kids. As a woman, we shouldn't have to be scared or worried or stay up at night wondering if we can have kids or not. And it's a big concern of mine.
Do you think about those things?
Not really. I'm more focused right now, like, on making it on the stage.
Once you do that, once you step on this stage, then what?
Well, I'm gonna keep going until I win. And then if I win, I wanna get another one back to back. I don't have any intentions on stopping until I'm in my older age.
Chris, I know you got to get back to the news department. Thank you for your reporting on this. I appreciate it. You can tune in to Chris on News on Merritt Street every night at 7 p.m. Coming up, we're going to meet a former influencer who decided to come clean about his use of performance-enhancing drugs. We're going to add him to the conversation next.
I do want to have kids one day. And I know that is a concern for steroid users is infertility. And that's why my fiance is upset about it and worried all the time about it. But at the same time, I'm still here to hit my goals. If I go to a doctor and they tell me that I have low testosterone naturally and that I'm infertile, that's not gonna stop me then. Then I'm gonna just keep going.
Well, infertility is one of the #1 side effects of steroids, which begs the question why people do what they do and don't do what they don't do. My concern about this is it doesn't make rational sense knowing the side effects. It just doesn't. Now, like Colton, Ryan developed an interest in bodybuilding when he was just 12 years old, but he wanted to follow in his father Sean's footsteps. So at just 16 years old, Ryan says his muscle gains just really plateaued, so he found another way to get to superhero status.
I I was 13 when I posted my first video. It was really easy for me at first to gain attention. I'd make body transformation videos that would get millions of views. Seeing other people online that were getting bigger and stronger, I was influenced to get SARMs. Over the course of about 8.5 months, I went from benching 275 pounds to benching 385 pounds. Things took a turn when I was on a vacation in Hawaii. I cracked open a new bottle of a SARM, and this bottle was more concentrated than normal. And I didn't really think of it at the time. I just took my normal dosing for the night. The next morning, I woke up and I opened my blinds and everything was distorted. Everything was super white. It felt like I was going blind for like 2 or 3 minutes. It was scary. I definitely think that experience motivated me to stop it.
Ryan, let me ask you, how easy was it for you to get a hold of these SARMs, for example?
Pretty easy. I just had to click on a link that I saw like on a YouTube video, took me right to a website, and added them to my cart and checked them out.
Delivered right to your house?
Yeah.
You know, we're looking at your progression here. It had a huge effect, right?
Yeah, it definitely did. There was a time where I really wanted to bring up my strength, specifically with like bench pressing. And so I changed my diet up, I changed my training up, and then I threw in the SARMs. And it was literally within a month of doing all those things that I saw an effect. I was bench pressing one weight the month before, and the next month it was going up like it was air.
Yeah. What did you think about this, Dad?
I didn't know that he was choosing to do the SARMs initially. And so I feel like, you know, Ryan was very involved with social media and YouTube. A lot of his friends are even today very, you know, high up on the food chain as influencers. And so I think just collectively him being with these other people, seeing their progression, seeing the things they were doing and seeing their social media grow. I mean, my common sense would say, you know, maybe he's like, okay, what would it be like to go to the next level with my physique? And what would, you know, what kind of attention or what would that do for my social media?
Yeah, and you know, you're talking about the food chain on social media, and the food chain means money.
I was more focused just on the views, actually, not really what I was making.
And the views, what was the payoff for the views?
Kind of just told me that I was doing something right and that I should keep going and doing the things that I'm doing.
So strangers clicking gave you a warm, fuzzy feeling?
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't know what they're clicking on. They could be clicking just like, wow, look at him. He's really working hard and doing a good job. Or they could be clicking like, look at this freak. You don't know. I mean, you don't know. They're
Absolutely.
just clicking.
Yeah.
When you did find out he was using these drugs, what was your reaction?
I knew nothing about SARMs. So I knew that he wasn't doing steroids. And so then I just thought, well, maybe these are just some supplements he was getting over the counter. I was ignorant to it. And so it wasn't until after when Ryan started explaining to me the negative side effects with his eyesight, and I said, what the hell are you doing? You got to get off this stuff.
Yeah, because you woke up one morning and thought, hell, I'm going blind.
Yeah, it was super scary because the night before I was cracking open a new bottle and it was a lot more concentrated than normal. I pop it in, do my regular dose, go to sleep, and then I woke up and I basically couldn't see for like 2 to 3 minutes, which is a long time when you've been able to see your whole life.
That scared you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Looking at it now, being almost 24, I was like 16, 17 back then. Yeah. Sounds insane that I even did that.
When we come back, one man's encounter with a bin full of syringes at his gym led to his research into social media's push for steroids. We're going to talk to him next.
I have been interested in other performance-enhancing drugs like steroids. I research them all the time.
When I was competing again a few years in my 40s, I did share with Ryan that I was using steroids to compete.
My dad and I have had many conversations about steroids. Like, should I do them? Should I not?
For him, he's going to research it well, get his blood work done, and I'm sure he'll do it the safest, healthiest way.
Callum Hood is the head researcher at the Center for countering digital hate. Now, he led the team in the study that focused on how TikTok videos promote steroid-like drugs. And Dr. Thomas O'Connor is a board-certified doctor of internal medicine and professor at the University of Connecticut School of Medicine. He's also known as the anabolic doc, who knows firsthand what it's like to be addicted to performance enhancement drugs. Thank you both for being here. Guys, you've been listening to everything that we've been talking about. This is a serious problem, right? Callum, you've really dug into this on social media platforms.
It's a massive problem. We've got teens viewing this stuff hundreds of millions of times, and this is really just the tip of the iceberg. This is the content that explicitly talks about steroids. There's plenty more content out there that our report didn't even cover that's promoting both the body image and a range of other drugs and supplements that also carry dangers.
And TikTok videos promoting steroids have been viewed 587 million times just in the last 3 years, with 420 million users aged 18 to 24. So they're being targeted. They're really aiming this through the algorithm. It's feeding this information to these young kids who are vulnerable, wanting to change their body image.
This is a tag team between TikTok and the people pushing these drugs. The algorithm just wants to get teens hooked on this content. So we see it exploits vulnerabilities with young women. It might be their weight. With young men, it's whether they're muscular enough. And then it pushes this content towards them because it wants to get them hooked and make advertising money. And we've seen content that is directly targeting teens, telling them, you're too short, why don't you take these drugs and you'll be tall enough. It's really ruthless, and it's all to make a quick buck.
Yeah, and Doctor, it's very dangerous.
I mean, Dr. Phil, it's been going on for a very long time. We know a lot about the health consequences, but for these guys, when you're so young and you're so charged, and these drugs work, right, for the last 40 years, and they can't grasp and see the cardiac risk, the hypercoagulable blood clots. But for these guys, the number one risk, and you mentioned it, is they're going to get shut down. The natural production is shut down. This is where people don't know, and that is in part with the infertility. You see, these guys are bro science guys, and I'm not putting this guy down. I want to help him. It's just called bro science, and it's all online. And now it's accelerated to the point that you see, and he's going to have to be on testosterone forever.
When it's not regulated, the mix can be anything.
You have no idea what you're getting.
You have no idea. So, Dr. O'Connor, what is bigorexia?
Bigorexia is really reverse anorexia. It's a subset of obsessive compulsive disorder underneath this. And it's an obsession with not being big enough and not feeling satisfied with your gains.
Mm-hmm. What's the currency for these guys? What is it they're after?
It's very simple. It's when you go in the gym, even without steroids, and you get a great pump and you get admired more by men, alpha, right, guys?
Yeah.
We asked women what appealed to them, and we presented 4 body styles, and let's look at the results of what you say you prefer.
Yeah. Wow.
1.2% say you prefer skinny. 93.6 said you preferred athletic. And then the very strong was only 1.6. You don't want to be with the Hulk. Does that surprise either of y'all?
No. I mean, I'm not worried about, I'm not looking for anyone, so I'm just going for myself.
Researcher Callum Hood found that social media platforms are using algorithms to send out messages romanticizing steroid use to young teens. Now, TikTok says, not true. Just not true. However, when you look at the actual results, how can they say that's not true?
What I'm most interested in is the actual experience of young guys who are using these apps. And that's all we're testing out. When we set up an account on there and we tell TikTok, we're 13 years old, we're a young guy, and then we see what results we get. And you can hear it in what Ryan and Colton have been saying, they're presented with this body image and you guys aspire to it, and that's partly why you got into this, and you're rewarded as well when you post this stuff. You know, you go up the algorithm, more people see it, and you feel good about it. And you know, the funny thing is, these statistics in our report, those are TikTok's statistics. And you know, the main thing they've done since our report, they've wiped them off their website. So we've got less information to have this really important conversation and about how this is affecting young men.
TikTok says your methodology is not scientific. It says it's all too small a sample size.
We've done this multiple times, multiple accounts, multiple countries. It's very consistent. And again, a lot of these statistics, they're the ones that TikTok put out there themselves, and they can't really argue with them. And they know that. That's why they've removed these stats from the app completely.
There's an article out there that says that CCDH researchers trained the algorithm that they liked this content and then act surprised when they got similar content. How did you train the algorithm to give you that content?
What we do is just we follow the behaviour of a young man, you know, who's got an interest in this stuff. We've done it with accounts that, you know, look like they're young girls as well, who have an interest in body image. And all it means is you just watch that video and you like that video and then you see what it gives you next. And you can see that algorithm responds very aggressively because it wants you to get hooked on this content, and it will show you more and more extreme stuff. There's been many studies, not just us, that show that this is the case with a lot of social media platforms who want that, you know, the money that is to be made from showing teens ads.
That's why I'm telling you, this algorithm is kind of like a black box. Nobody understands it. It's what I call the mystery mastery complex. If they maintain some mystery, then they can maintain mastery. But it's really not that hard to unpack. It looks at who the user is, and then it pays attention to their viewing patterns. And they can start funneling information to them. And if they take the bait, man, it just goes crazy and starts funneling it to them. It's just unbelievable.
And it's important for us to be having this conversation about it, what the risks are, why are young men doing this? And TikTok holds a lot of the information on that would allow us to have that conversation. They don't want to share it.
We have a statement from TikTok. Content that is instructing, selling, or depicting using selective androgen receptor modulators, SARMs, violates our community guidelines and will be removed when detected. I feel so much better. I want to thank Chris Gutierrez, Dr. Thomas O'Connor, Callum Hood from the Center for Countering Digital Hate, and really all of my guests. We'll have even more information about tonight's show on our website, so make sure to log on to drphil.com. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much.